Yeah, so I'm Aaron Allport, I'm the Vice President of Art at King, and I'm at the View Conference.
So what are your thoughts about having a conference like this that has this convergence of video games, VR, and traditional visual effects?
Yeah, I think it's wonderful because we kind of see a convergence anyway in a lot of the process of what we do. So the conversations that we can have are quite similar. And it's nice from an audience point of view as well because they get to come here and they get to see a wide array of different segments of the entertainment industry and what we're all about. So it's great.
So you guys have studios all over the world, but your main one is in Stockholm. We're right now in Turin, Italy. Can you talk about the global nature of the video game business?
Yeah, well, that's very true. I mean, at King we have studios across Europe and in the US. And that brings wonderful opportunities for us as a business. One of the things I love about games being so global is that you get to work with lots of different cultures. It's a very diverse population of people that you get to work with from a creative point of view, and I think that's a lot of fun. But it's also very potent and very valuable for us in the creation of games because we get people thinking from different points of view throughout the creative process. So it's wonderful. It's great for the industry.
The other thing about the View is a lot of the people that are here come from local high school and colleges. And what are your thoughts about being able to speak directly to that next generation of game developers?
I mean, it's wonderful for the depth and the longevity of our industry. I'll also say from the students' audience point of view, it's a wonderful opportunity for them. I must admit, when I first started in the games industry, if I'd had an opportunity to see some of these people speaking about their experiences, I mean, what an amazing opportunity. So it's really nice to be a part of that. For us, it's about sharing our experiences no matter who the group is, right? People that are interested and passionate about either being in the industry or wanting to get into the industry. So it makes for a wonderful experience, I think, for all of us.
One of the things that I found really interesting the first time I went to your studio was you guys have that PC site where you're able to test a lot of different games and get real-time feedback before deciding what's going to actually end up going and being a push. Can you talk a little about that process and how that has allowed something like a Candy Crush to become a global success?
Yeah, well, that's very true. And essentially, playtesting our games is a vital part of our process because what we do is we develop different features for our games and then we want to validate whether or not the player is going to find them fun enough to stay in the game and have fun with those features for a long period of time. So that process is very important to the way that we make games, and it's an opportunity for us because we have different segments of audiences. So that means that we can try different mechanics or different features within the game with different groups of our audience throughout the world. And that's a really useful way for us to understand whether or not the game is going to be successful and whether our players are going to love it and love it for a long period of time. So it's a vital strategy for the way that we make games at King.
When you look at right now, one of the most popular games in the world today is Fortnite, but you don't have parents and grandparents spending time playing that like you do with the Candy Crush. What are the keys to having a game that can be cross-generational and enjoyed by so many different age groups?
Yeah, that's a great point, and seeing Fortnite being so successful is great for our industry, I think, and that has really proven to be an amazing next step in mobile games, very similar to sort of like the Pokemon Go's as well. I think that was another amazing achievement. This is all part of a bigger puzzle. In my own opinion, this is all part of a much bigger puzzle. The idea that playing games, and this is what the mobile devices have given us, is playing games is expanding to be such a huge part of the entertainment industry. I mean, games has already been huge, but this is giving us a real amazing opportunity. So it's games like Candy Crush that have given non-gamers a really lovely gaming experience. But then there's other games like Fortnite that are again expanding the user base and are also proving the next benchmark of what mobile games can achieve. So I think those kinds of things are great for our industry.
What have you learned about your audience from the perspective? A lot of times when I hear people, they say they're not a gamer, but then you ask them what they play, and they'll play Candy Crush or a game like that pretty regularly, weekly.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always use the idea of the fact that I've been making games for a long time, console games primarily, and then moved into mobile games. And what was so great about joining King is that all of a sudden I was making games that my mum plays. And it's now a case where my mum plays a lot of our games and gives me feedback on the way that the characters look and what the game mechanics are like. And for that, for someone of that kind of audience, is just wonderful for our industry. And you're absolutely right. What's happening is our non-gamer audience are becoming gamers. And that's wonderful because even if they don't want to admit it, or if they don't understand what that is, it doesn't really matter. The fact is they are learning what game experiences are like, and what I think that they're becoming more savvy, and they're wanting more complex games, more interesting looking games, and specifically for art, that means that their expectations from a quality point of view are much higher, which means that we have to continue to do better and better.
Well, at the same time, they don't consider themselves gamers because gaming has become so ubiquitous. It's just part of what you do as a regular daily activity.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And if we look at King games, right, what we understand is on average, our players play for 36 minutes a day, but not in one go, in short blocks, in short sessions throughout the day. And that's really interesting in regards to seeing the trend of how our players play. And you're right, when it gets to a point where actually the word gamer doesn't really matter anymore, right? This is just it becomes part of everyday life.
How have you seen the influence once Activision came in and acquired King, especially since they have that console PC background and these huge franchises like Call of Duty and Overwatch and World of Warcraft? How has their background influenced what King, like putting those two things together, that marriage, how is that influencing the games that are coming out of King?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think one of the things that I saw was a synergy between Activision Blizzard and King, because King believes in big franchises as well, and that's really what we want to achieve. And we've got things like Candy Crush, which are amazing and have been doing well for many years, but we want that to be transgenerational. We want people to know and love Candy Crush for the next 5, 10, 20 years. And a lot of that philosophy is what Activision Blizzard has too, right? So I think that there was a synergy there which made a lot of sense.
You guys also, as a company, just recently entered the mid-core for the first time with Legend of Soulguard, and I wanted to ask a little about that, because that's a game that can still appeal to those Candy Crush fans, but also can appeal to those Overwatch and World of Warcraft fans.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's all part of trying to expand our portfolio and to move into different genres, whether it's casual gaming or whether it's the more sort of mid-core stuff. We love the idea of that kind of thing. We see the opportunities there. We see these kind of games doing very well, and it goes back to the idea that the expectation for more complex games from our casual gamers are moving into the more sort of mid-core space as well. So, what I think it's a wonderful opportunity for King. It's certainly it's not easy to make a mid-core game. It's not easy to create a new IP. I mean, especially in today's market where there is so many games out there. But it's a challenge that we like to take on. So it's great to see Legend of Soulguard out there, and I personally love the game. So it's really nice to have that in the King portfolio.
At the same time, brand new Candy Crush game also just came out. So talk a little about how you guys are progressing forward with that franchise.
Yeah, so Candy Crush Friends is I'm so happy to see that out for its worldwide launch. It's been a labour of love for so many people for quite a while. And what I love about Friends, the team that made that game did an amazing job. They worked really hard to evolve Candy Crush, the franchise of Candy Crush, to the next level. And one thing that is true to my heart about Candy Crush Friends is the evolution of the characters in the game, because what we've tried to do in this game is put the characters a bit more into the forefront, and to give an opportunity for our players to know who these characters are. And so we did a lot of work to sort of design these characters, to evolve these characters, and hopefully the audience will fall in love with them. So that's a really big part of Candy Crush Friends, and it's wonderful to see it out there and for people to be enjoying it.
Can you talk about your own background and some of the games you worked on and how you feel like that console PC background impacts the mobile space?
Yeah, sure. So the interesting thing about so I've been in games for around about 18 years. Before that, I was in the more traditional arts. But when I got into games, I really had an affinity for the more family, light-hearted style console games. I really like kind of gritty realism to play, but it's not my personal thing to make a game like that. So I've worked with a lot of big sort of cartoony licenses before, whether it's Pac-Man or whether it's Mickey Mouse or so. So a lot of those kinds of genres, it was a real love for me, and then that's why it was a really good fit for when I got the opportunity to move to King, because they offer those sort of lovely, colourful, soft experiences from a visual point of view that I really like, so it makes it very enjoyable to work with.
The other thing that's happening on a very regular basis is the phones are getting much, much better. Everyone has a smartphone these days. What is that opening up for you guys in terms of pushing the visuals of these games forward, knowing that you've got a pretty high base now of people that have a smartphone?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So there's a couple of things here. One is that we still have a large array of devices that we need to serve our games to. Even though there are more high-end devices, we still have to, we still don't want to disregard the lower-end devices, of which there is a large portion of our market. So that's one thing. But you're absolutely right, and we need to continually work to stay ahead of the curve in regards to graphics on our games. So there's the obvious one of moving into more 3D animated characters, which you'll see in Candy Crush Friends. But there's also a lot of research and development that we're doing in the company as well. The sort of animation character technology, kind of shaders and post-processing and lighting and stuff like that. So we're doing all those kinds of things to help evolve what we're able to do technically for our games. The idea there is to give us a set of tools for us to create the game that we want to make, rather than to hinder what we say. So it's not a case of, are we just making expansive 3D worlds? No, what we're doing is we want to have a suite of tools that we can utilize to make the game that we want to make, whether it's a 2D game or a 2D and 3D game or whatever. So we're doing a lot of stuff to evolve the way that we make games, and that's a natural progression of our company and also just the mobile games industry in general.
And speaking of the mobile game industry, this is more of a general question, but we're starting to see a lot of investment in both augmented and mixed reality games on mobile devices, and I want to get your thoughts on what you see that opening up to gaming moving forward.
Yeah, well, all these kinds of new technologies just extend what we're capable to do in gaming experiences. So I think augmented reality is a wonderful piece of technology that allows new ideas in regards to kind of game mechanics that we could potentially put in games in our industry. So I think they're wonderful. I think they need to be used with caution. My own opinion is, don't use it for the sake of it. Use it if it enhances the experience, enhances the game design, enhances the game mechanics that you're